The sun has finally come out at Vikings Training Camp, and it must be because NFL Network insider Ian Rapoport is here. We're so excited for you to be here. I know you've been making your way through our coaching staff, having some really good conversations with the front office. What sense do you get from those guys this training camp?
It's pretty optimistic, and I know that's sort of normal for first-year staffs and first-year GM as well. But this really does seem like a situation where, if it was just a couple tweaks, if it was just maybe change this, change that, but kind of keep it rolling, like this is a place that's primed to win. There's some real talent here.
Yes.
I mean, there's a quarterback who's done it and has shown he can do it on the biggest stage. There's couple star receivers. There's some really, really good guys off the edge. I think the offensive line is going to be much improved. I mean, this seems like a place where, as his first ever head coaching job, I think Kevin O'Connell is a perfect place.
That's great. You mentioned two guys I was going to ask you about. Adam Thielen going into year 10, Justin Jefferson year 3. Where do you think this wide receiving duo ranks in the league?
I would say first about, Justin Jefferson. I mean, he looks like he's primed for a really big year. Sounds like he came in a little lighter, a little more explosive than he had been. And that's a really good sign because, he could have just stayed the same and would have been one of the best receivers in the NFL. But to think about him getting a little bit better is just scary. He is about as good as it gets. And then, I think Adam Thielen's in a really good place too. Has kind of kept it as a really, really solid number 2, can also make a lot of big plays. I know last year didn't really go like he had wanted, but this year off to certainly a much better start. Stays healthy. I mean, it is really going to be a formidable duo, and so much of what defenses are going to do is to try to stop Jefferson, and I think Thielen can really feast off that.
Let's switch things to defense. The rankings last year weren't favorable for the Vikings on that side of the ball. And when you look at a lot of the moves that this front office made, they were on the defensive side of things, whether it was free agency or the draft. Where do you think this defense can take the biggest leap in the next season, knowing that the moves that they've made?
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm really fascinated to see this Ed Donatel defense. I mean, he has been, with Vic Fangio for years and years and years, and, his able lieutenant executing exactly what Vic Fangio wanted. And he said, obviously, a lot of time in the NFL, and now can come here and put his own stamp on it. So I think it's going to be based in what Vic Fangio has done for so many years, but with his own interpretation. Like, I think the coolest thing is going to be, they're going to be quarterbacks who are going to line up and look at this defense and be like, I don't know what they're in. And I think that's going to be really helpful. And you look at, and they got a lot of talent. Certainly on the back end, plenty of talent. Add Lewis Seen, and that only helps. But on the edge, I mean, Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith, 2 premium pass rushers. That's what it's all about now. It's how well can you get to the quarterback, and I think this is a team that should be in a good position for that.
Now that you've been here for a little while, what do you think is the most interesting storyline about this team during this training camp?
So much of the stories are about the quarterback and what's Kirk Cousins going to be like, and that's totally fine. And I think for Kirk Cousins, it always feels like every storyline is like about him proving something, and he's been in the league a lot, he's won a lot. So, I guess until he gets to the absolute biggest stage, he's still going to have to answer those questions. But I like where he's at with this offense. I mean, it's and we've seen this sort of Rams, McVay type offense succeed in a lot of levels. Seeing Cousins' interpretation and knowing the work he spent with Kevin O'Connell, it's not just like, here are our plays. It's like, here are our plays. What do you think? How do you see it? Do you see the same thing I'm seeing? How are we going to run it? How are we going to interpret? I mean, that's, I remember I talked to Kevin O'Connell last year, and that's what he was going through with Stafford, and he was so excited to get Stafford's viewpoint on the offense, which had obviously been successful beforehand. I think this Vikings team is in a similar place as that Rams team was, which is having the bare bones of it and then being like, how does it best fit our quarterback? That's a cool place to be.
We hear the word collaboration around here very often, and obviously this team hopes that collaboration can bring them success. On a smaller level, maybe not the Lombardi Trophy side of things, we're going to take it down to the NFC North. What do you think the chances are? How do the Vikings their best path to that title? What do you think that would be?
I mean, it's, getting that title is tough because, the Packers are always pretty good, and Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere, and the Packers defense is going to be, I think, really nasty. It's going to be a challenge. I mean, they're going to have to They're going to have to beat the best. They're going to have to beat the Packers. And, the rest of the division, I think, has a lot to prove, the Lions, the Bears. But, really, if the Vikings are going to do it, they're going to have to beat the Packers. And if they can beat the Packers and win the division, they will have earned everything. And I think that'll be a cool thing. Now, I mean, you can get in the playoffs without doing that, but certainly to win the division, you'd love to do it through Green Bay.
Well, there has been a lot of change here. Some things, I guess, just don't change, do they?
I think that's exactly right.
All right. Thank you so much, NFL Network's Ian Rapoport, for being out here. We really have enjoyed your visit.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.